So I'd like to pretend now that you are my third grade students, and I'm going to take you through a concept mapping of the Bayou. So let's start. So just pretend you're my students for a second, and I'm going to just pretend that I'm talking to you, and we're going through this activity kind of in a mini lesson type setting. So we're going to talk about a place called the Bayou today, and I'm going to show you some pictures of the Bayou. Tell me, what do you see? First of all, can everyone pronounce the word Bayou? Bayou. Is this a word you've ever heard before? Bayou. Take a look at these pictures. Take a look at these pictures. Has anyone ever been to a Bayou before? Can anyone tell me? Have you ever been to a Bayou? Does this look familiar to you, or is it a place you've never been before? What can you tell me about these pictures? What do you see? What do you notice? What does the water look like? Well, yes, it looks like a lake. Yes, it does. It looks like a lake, right? Or a pond. It does look like a lake or a pond. And why do you say that? Why do you say it looks like a lake or a pond? Maybe because it's still water, right? It's still water. Is it moving? No. Do you see waves? No, it's very still, right? It's very still. What else do you see? Yes, there are trees. There are trees and there are plants, right, in the bayou. Tell me, how do you think these trees are standing up? How do you think these trees are growing out of the water? Do you think the water is very deep, or do you think it's shallow? What do you think the trees need to be able to grow like this out of the water? Yes, I think this water is shallow, right? What do we know is underneath all of this water? Yeah, mud, lots and lots of mud, right? And the trees are growing, their roots are growing inside the mud. Okay, well, what else can you tell me about these pictures? What's growing in the bayou? Okay, so we have trees and we have plants. Can anybody tell me what kind of a plant this is? Exactly, it's a water lily. So it's a plant with flowers, right? It's a water lilies. Water lilies. And does anyone here notice something on the water here? Do you notice something different about the water in this picture and the water in this picture? Right, the water in this picture has kind of a green slime on it. Does anyone know what that green stuff is called? Exactly, it's called duckweed. Duckweed. Can you repeat that after me? Duckweed. Very good. What else do you notice? What else can you tell me? Yeah, I see there's some stuff hanging off of the branches here. There's some stuff. Can anyone tell me what this is called? Is it just dust or feathers, or is this actually a plant that's hanging off the branches? What do you think? Yes, it is. It's a plant and it's called Spanish moss. It's called Spanish moss and it's a plant that grows in the bayou. Can everyone repeat that after me? Spanish moss. Now you tell me, does it look cold or hot in the bayou? Does it look like it's cold or hot? I think it looks hot. Now why do you tell me it's hot? What can you tell me about these pictures that makes you think that it's hot in the bayou? Well, the leaves are green. That's right, the leaves are green. And the water isn't frozen, right? If it were winter, the water might be frozen. Exactly. So we know that this looks like a warm climate. What other words can you think of for a warm climate? Maybe humid, right? It's wet in the bayou. There's lots and lots of water because look, we don't see any land here, right? We don't see land. We just see trees growing out of the water. Does anyone know where the bayou is in the United States? Does anyone have an idea? Is it in New York? What do you think? Or is it in a place in the United States that's pretty hot and humid most of the time? It's in the southern United States. Who can name some states for me in the southern United States? That's right, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida. Very good. All right, let's move on. What are these pictures of? Wow, these are kind of fun pictures. It's a frog, exactly. What kind of frog is it? What's the story that we're going to read? Exactly, it's the bullfrog. It's a big frog. Look how big it is. Look, this is a man holding the frog. Look how big, how huge these frogs are. Tell me what this frog looks like. It's green and he's got spots, or he's spotted. Exactly. And then what about his eyes? What's interesting about his eyes? Are they flat? No, they kind of stick out, right? They're bulging. Can you repeat that after me? Bulging eyes. Bulging eyes. And look at his legs. Look at his legs. Look how strong they are. What do you think? How do you think the bullfrog lives in the bayou? What do you think he does? He can definitely jump. Maybe he can jump on these water lilies. Exactly. Very good. Now, if he can jump, do you think he lives in the water or out of the water? What do you think? Yes, he can go both in and out of the water. And what do we call an animal that can be in the water and can live in the water, like swim and breathe underneath the water, but can also live on land and breathe the air, the oxygen? What do we call that kind of animal? Exactly, it's an amphibian. Can you repeat after me? Amphibian. Now look at how I'm writing this. This word has two parts. This word has a prefix. Amphibian. Does anyone know what amphi means? Does anyone know what the prefix amphi means? Who can tell me? I'm going to give you a hint. This frog can live both in the water and on land. So what do you think the prefix amphi means? Exactly, it means both, right? It means both. Very good. Now tell me about this image here. What do you see here? It's a baby frog. Very good. It's a baby frog. And what do we call baby frogs? Exactly, they're tadpoles. And tell me about this baby frog. What do you see here? How does he look? Does he look like the bullfrog? Does he look like this? No, he doesn't have legs, right? He has a tail. Very good. And he's little, right? He's very little. So this is a baby frog, a tadpole, who eventually grows into a bullfrog, a big frog. Now, look at this baby frog. Does this baby frog, is he able to jump in and out of the water like the adult bullfrog? No, he has a tail, right? So he lives in the water. He swims in the water. Very good. Okay, let's look at one last picture. Look at this. What is this bullfrog doing? He's swimming. Yes, he's swimming with the water lilies. Very good. Now, but what else is he doing? Look at him here and look at him here. What's the difference? Exactly, his throat is all puffed up, right? His throat is puffed up. What's he doing? What's he doing? You don't know? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. Listen, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Exactly, he's croaking. He's croaking, and we're going to watch a video where you can hear him croaking. Can everyone say the word with me? Croak. Very good. He's croaking by puffing up his throat. Now tell me, why would he be doing this? Why? Why would he be doing this? He wants to call his friends? Very good. He does want to call his friends. But which friends does he want to call? Does he want to call a boyfriend or a girlfriend? What do you think? He wants to call a girl. Okay. And what do we call it when the animal kingdom, animals want to make babies together. And the boy wants to call the girl. What do we call that? We say attract a mate. Can you repeat after me? Attract a mate. He is attracting his mate. He's calling his girlfriend by croaking and puffing up his throat and making a special sound. Okay, so we're going to next watch a little video about bullfrogs in the bayou. Okay, so I'm done with my little teaching demonstration. So just imagine that as I was leading my students, eliciting these ideas and words and information, at the same time, I was at the whiteboard or the smartboard mapping out the discussion, okay? So I would want to start with a concept like the bayou, okay, where I would, write the word in a big circle. And then as students responded to me, I would be mapping out ideas, mapping out categories, right, within the concept of the bayou. Okay, and I would be trying to connect the different things. Here's the bullfrog, and he's green, he's spotted, and he croaks by puffing up his throat, right? But here I tried to connect, you can see, he croaks by puffing up his throat because he wants to attract a mate to make a baby frog, right? So it's not so much about the arrows necessarily, it's about eliciting some logical critical thinking and vocabulary from your students. And obviously in order for you to do this activity, okay, you're going to have to sit down and read your central text. And you're going to have to ask yourself, what schema and background knowledge do I need to help my students build up in order for them to be able to access this text? And the schema that I identified from this central text were not only the bullfrog and how he lives and how he survives, but also this idea of the bayou, the setting, the habitat of the bullfrog. Okay, and I really wanted my students to understand, first of all, what a bayou is, where it is, okay, why is a bayou special in this story? Why does the bullfrog live in the bayou, right? And then how does the bullfrog live in the bayou? What is his life all about, right? And what grows in the bayou, and all of those different things. So from this map, which you now have on your whiteboard or your smartboard, okay, you could conceivably do a whole bunch of activities with this. You could create, sentences, right? You could have kids create sentences from this, for example, like the bullfrog lives in the bayou, right? The bullfrog is an amphibian. For example, so I'm just trying to tell you that there are many, many different kinds of activities that you could spawn off of this concept map, whether they be more vocabulary building, whether they be sentences, or identifying these words in the text, or sections of the text where these concepts are evoked, okay? And so on this slide, or on the previous slide, I spent about 10 minutes doing this. Now, if you're in a classroom doing this with 32 kids, this is gonna take you 20 minutes at least, okay? So you might wanna think about how much time you have. Do you just wanna focus on one thing or two main concepts, schematic concepts? Because you might not have time. I've had teachers who have told me they have 7 minutes to do their mini lesson, or else they get, their AP comes in and gives them some grief. So you really have to think about how you can play with this idea of a concept map to fit your instructional needs and your instructional practice, okay? So like I said, this is something that I would want to do pre-reading. This is something I would do as a schema building activity. And I would love to also be able to show my kids a video. So I'm actually thinking unit-wise in terms of approximately 3 lessons. Okay, now that doesn't mean that I'm just going to be in the center of the class and lead the class and have absolutely no group activities. It just means that my kids need a foundation from which to understand the habitat of a frog, which is the Bayou in this story.